That's what I said, we had the meeting here. Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to the WCW November 19th meeting. We will start the meeting. It is 6:30. Madam Clerk, could you take roll?
Director Alvarado.
Here.
Director King Meredith.
Here.
Director Weiner.
Here.
Vice President Suddeth.
Aquí.
President Rentila. Here. Mr. President, we have a quorum with all 5 members present.
Could you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, or you may observe a moment of silence seated or standing. Director Alvarado, please lead us through the Pledge of Allegiance.
Absolutely. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As soon as possible.
Thank you. And tonight, General Counsel Nicole Witt will serve as our parliamentarian for tonight's meeting.
As a reminder to members of the public in attendance, the board has adopted rules governing the conduct of its public meetings. Public participation is welcome and encouraged. All public comments should be addressed to the board as a body, and the board asks that you please respect the 3-minute time limit per speaker. All persons attending board meetings shall observe the rules, any additional rules the board may establish, and the orders of the president with respect to the conduct of the meeting. No person may disrupt or disturb the board meeting. Disturbing, impeding, or otherwise preventing the orderly conduct of the board meeting could result in an individual's removal from the meeting.
Thank you. Directors, before we begin with tonight's agenda, I ask that you be mindful of the board's rules of decorum, in particular to practice civility and decorum in discussions and debate. In order to preserve the order of this and every board meeting, directors will wait to speak until they are recognized and will restrict their comments to the motion or the agenda item under consideration. Thank you. Now is the time for public comment on items that are not on the agenda. Madam Clerk, have we received any written comments or requests to speak for tonight's meeting?
We have received a written comment, which I will read into the record. But before I do, if there are any speakers in the room or on Zoom who would wish to provide public comment on non-agenda items, please approach the podium or raise your hand in Zoom. I will read the written comment into the record.
Thank you.
We received a comment from Ms. Sheila Khan. I'm a contractor and would like to speak on the subject of scheduling and flexibility during the rainy season. The staff is not being accommodating. I will not subject crews to dangers of working in the rain. That's the end of the comment.
And there are no further comments?
No further comments.
Thank you. General Manager Andrew Cloud, please lead us through the remainder of the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. President. The consent calendar consists of item 1 on the agenda. Madam Clerk, have we received any written comments or requests to speak on this item?
We have not. If anyone wishes to comment on consent calendar item 1, please approach the podium or raise your hand in Zoom. Seeing none, we have no public comments.
Are there any questions or comments from the members of the board, starting with Director Weiner?
I have none.
Director King Meredith?
No, I have none.
Director Alvarado?
No, I do not.
Vice President Suddeth?
No, and with no questions, I'll move the item.
Do we have a second?
And I'll second.
Madam Clerk?
On the motion moved by Vice President Studded and seconded by Director Alvarado to approve consent calendar item 1, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is regular calendar item 2, to adopt the artificial intelligence policy. Madam Clerk, have we received any written comments or public comments to request for public comments?
We have not. If anyone wishes to speak on item 2, artificial intelligence policy, please approach the podium or raise your hand in Zoom. Seeing none, we have no public comments.
Whenever you're ready.
She's waiting for me.
Okay, good evening, members of the board. I'm Lakeem Sands, Senior Management Analyst for Admin Services. I'm normally in the back, working the computer, the camera, but today I will be presenting artificial intelligence policy for the board to approve and consider for adoption.
Hold on, give me a second. Did it go up again? Oh, thank you.
Should get you to say, try that. Oh, it's grayed out.
Or what about this one? Hide, is it, no. I'm gonna do it different, let's see. Let me do this one.
Please bear with us. We are having technical difficulties.
Okay. So, public agencies are using AI more and more in their routine work. The goal of this policy is to give the district a clear modern framework for how we use AI across the organization. So the purpose of this policy is to establish a comprehensive and flexible governance structure for artificial intelligence systems used by or on behalf of West County wastewater district. This policy enables the district to use AI. Do I need to start over? The mic wasn't on. Sorry. This policy enables the district to use AI systems for the benefit of the community while safeguarding against potential harm. The policy is also about being proactive rather than reactive and building a foundation that supports the district long-term digital transformation. So there are eight guiding principles, and these principles will shape how AI-related decisions are made. There's human-centered design, security and safety, privacy, transparency, equity, accountability, effectiveness, and workforce empowerment. So the human-centered design and the transparency ensures that the public always understand how AI is being used and why. And security, privacy, and equity will make sure that systems are safe, protect personal information, and prevent unintended biases. And the workforce empowerment guideline will ensure that we treat AI as a resource and not as a resource for staff and not a replacement. And to invest in proper education and training. So this section explains the practical steps required to determine if, when, and how AI should be used across the organization. So starting with every AI tool must go through a review before we buy or deploy it. This prevents surprises and avoids systems that might pose an unnecessary security risk. This framework requires clear documentation, so that staff know what a system does, how it works, and where the data comes from. And human oversight is non-negotiable. AI will support decisions, but it will not replace human judgment. And continuous monitoring ensures systems stay secure, accurate, and compliant as intended. Okay, so the policy clearly defines the roles and responsibilities, so there's no confusion around oversight. The Deputy General Manager or designee will coordinate AI systems reviews and ensure compliance with policy and security standards and oversee enterprise security, cybersecurity, and privacy practices. General Counsel will advise on legal and regulatory risks related to AI use. Contract administrators will ensure vendors and procurement compliance with AI standards. Division and departments will follow policy updates and conduct annual compliance reviews. General manager and the board may inspect, suspend, or phase out AI as necessary. So the prohibited uses. So the prohibitions listed on this slide are important because they establish clear boundaries. For example, emotion recognition and social scoring can be unreliable and raise major equity and privacy concerns because AI uses algorithms to interpret human emotions and classify individuals or groups based on their behavior and other data points, which can be discriminatory. And fully automated decisions are also prohibited because they remove human judgment from high-impact decisions. And the policy also prohibits AI-generated communications that are not verified, preventing misinformation. So this policy enforces procedures including all WCW employees, interns, volunteers, contractors, consultants, vendors, all must follow the AI policy. Any violation of the policy may result in disciplinary action, but up to and including termination for WCW staff. Violations by contractors or vendors may be treated as a breach of contract, which can lead to termination of the contract or pursuit of damages. Serious infractions that break local, state, federal, or international laws may be referred to the appropriate legal authorities. Departments must ensure annual compliance reviews to verify continued adherence of the policy, and the Office of the General Manager may inspect AI systems used and require departments or partners to modify or discontinue AI if needed. So there's a sunset procedure. The sunset procedure provides the district with a reasonable and controlled way to remove outdated technology without disrupting the work that we do. So WCW will retire AI systems that no longer provide operational benefits as determined by the Deputy General Manager or designee. After an AI system is designated for retirement, its use must stop unless an approved exception applies, and when an abrupt stop isn't feasible, the AI system must be phased out gradually to maintain continuity. Any questions? I know I said that really fast, but so
That's your presentation? Thank you. That was good. Thank you.
Thank
Good job. Yeah. There you go.
Thank you.
Take a deep breath.
Staff,
Yes, it helped.
so before we go to staff, are there any questions or comments online or?
If anyone has a question on Zoom, please raise your hand. Seeing none.
Thank you, thank you. Vice President Sedith, as Chair of the Finance and Administration Committee, would you like to provide us with any comments?
Sure. Before I start, though, because we had a really good conversation
Yes.
in in the committee meeting. I'm going to start with Director King Meredith with your comments. And we're going to not only this presentation, but really focus on the policy itself and some of the recommended revisions that we asked for. And we won't just leave you on the hot seat.
Okay, thank you.
That the Deputy General Manager, I'm sure he'll jump in. I see him behind you, ready to get up. So it won't just be you, so don't worry. Director King Meredith.
Thank you, Chairman Sutter. Well, my dear analyst, you made it through it. I did.
Respirar, respirar, let a big breath out.
You,
You're good.
You did, you know.
It's
you
fine.
put it out there. And from our committee, we had a very robust committee meeting when we had this. And I can remember when, at the time, Vice President Sutter, and at the time when she was speaking of artificial intelligence, I think it was last year, when she brought it up, that was something we wanted to look at, and because other entities and other, other organizations were looking into this. It was fairly new, a year and a half ago, but they were really on the wave of really working with artificial intelligence in their organization. By saying this, when we had you, when this was presented to the committee, it wasn't new, but you all the team had enough information to get started, had a baseline. And from that, our chair, Sutters, had a lot of information that she wanted to bring forth, which she did from all of our different conferences that we attended with CASA. That's all they talked about was artificial intelligence. So it's almost like, what's going on here? Is this going to be totally the way of the world at that time? Should we hurry up and catch up, at this point? But as it was presented and as the staff and as you all took it, the reins, and really hashed out, and we had the discussion and what we were looking for, you nailed it. I really feel that you nailed it. I read through it. I said, oh, that was answered. Oh, well, what are we going to do about it? Well, you've already said it's not going to be just controlled by AI. It's the human part that's overseeing this, and it's not just going to run free. As you see, a lot of automations there set forth, and then, you have a problem. But I really, truly feel that you all really did a great job on this. A lot of my questions was answered by looking through the policy. I went through blindly, like, oh, this is my first time ever reading this. Let me see how it's going to do. And I was looking for little catches here and there, but you fully covered the basis of we discussed, in our committee, and for it to be brought to the full board. I think you've done a great job, and the staff that worked with you on it. And to you, our deputy at this point, and our general manager, I think it was a great job. Thank you. Madam?
Thank you. Director King Meredith, thank you very much. A couple of questions, and I'm going to go back, and this one I do need Deputy General Manager up. There was one thing that I really wanted, that we did bring up in the meeting, and that was, sir, making sure we tie these back to our strategic plan, the element of the strategic plan that we wanted this tied back to. So there's the one thing that I saw that I didn't see, that I wanted to see and hear. Maybe I missed it, It might just be
Good
me.
evening, Justin Lovell, Deputy General Manager. Yeah, we didn't say it specifically in the policy itself, but it is a item in our strategic plan that the board has adopted to adopt an AI policy. We're hopeful that this policy is going to live beyond the existing 5-year strategic plan. So I
Absolutely.
think there was some thought of wanting to keep this a policy that could last longer than just a 5-year document. But we recognize we're going to have to update, items as they come up. But this is a objective of the strategic plan adopted by the board. And so we want to make sure we get ahead of that one.
I think it's not so much in the policy itself, but in the presentation. Remember, we had the conversation that when we do these kind of really, and just to the rest of the board, I think we talked about this before in the other ones, that when we do these kind of big policy changes, we want to tie it in the presentation, not necessarily name it in the policy, but name it in the presentation, that this policy is coming about not for some reason because somebody had a bright idea, which it did come because somebody had a bright idea, but because the board has directed you because of the strategic plan, and that this ties into strategic plan. This is tied into objectives such and such, number this, because then it's measurable, right? So when you come and give us an update, you can tie this to this strategic, and you can say, board, you asked us to do this, we did this, the evidence of that is the AI policy. And then we can come back and say, how's the AI policy going? And then you can measure it. And I think that's what I'm referring to, is more the presentation to make sure it's tied there. So that was one thing. And then the other thing is that, and just making sure, and we mentioned it in here about making sure that it's not used for HR functions, right? And that was another one that was tying back to the strategic plan. If you're going to give a review, if you're going to give a promotion, that's all based on actual human interaction. I know you mentioned it, but I think I wanted it as an example, because I think you mentioned it as an example during the meeting, what that meant, to break it down, i.e., you're going to get your review, you're going to get your salary review, while you might use data that is culled from statistical information that you may pull from an artificial intelligence gathering, whether it's ChatGPT or any of that, is someone who's going to be reviewing that to make sure that that information is valid.
Correct.
But that's all. But the one thing that I think was missing was that we said that there's going to be an SOP and training, right?
Yes, as after the adoption of the policy, there's going to be more kind of procedural and training with staff, because this is, we need to have the human intervention with anything AI related. It can help us, but we also need to ensure that what we're getting is going to be useful for our needs, and that it's also following the guidelines of the policy of, we're not using it to make certain decisions.
But we also say we're also going to, and we're going to have a mirror that's going to relate to the board use as well, correct?
Yeah, no, that will be forthcoming on this. So we have additional homework. This is just getting started
Yes.
on how we are adopting AI usage within the organization.
But I wanted to make sure the board understood that and heard that. This is not just for staff, meaning non-board members. This is also for the board, because, yeah, we can get caught up in that too. The other thing I wanted to ask Ms. Samuels is, can you just say, just because we're being recorded and for the record, yeah, because most people don't even know what AI is, and we talked about this before. They've heard it. And if you ask them, they'll say, The same way when I ask someone, yo hablo español, y say, en cuando yo hablo español, ¿me entiendes? And they say, and they don't understand Spanish, right? So AI, can you just give them examples? Like when we talked, everybody has one of these little things in their pocket, these mini computers. Right. And if you push the little button in the bottom and you start talking to it, and you say, hey, Siri, can you show me where the nearest whatever store is? What is that?
That's AI.
Say it into the microphone.
Oh,
Do you hear that? You hear that?
that's AI,
That's AI, right?
yeah.
If you use your thing at home and you say, Alexa, can you wake me up at 5 a.m.? What is that?
That's also AI.
No, just say it in the microphone.
That's also AI.
Okay, and so if I don't know, if I want to watch a certain movie and I push the little button on my remote and I say, can you find movie X? What is that?
That's also AI.
Just see what I mean? So I want people to understand that AI it can be reactive, it can have limited memory, it can have, hysteria of the mind, but be self-aware that AI is not just something that's ChatGPT that you're putting into the computer. It is all kinds of ways that you're using what they call artificial intelligence, this outside of just your body or your person. And so that is what's covered by this policy, correct? Yes. Ms. Lee, thank you. Okay. You did great. Thank you. We appreciate you. Okay, you can't go anywhere yet because the other board members.
Oh, sorry.
That was just my part. Thank you. That's total for me, sir. I turn it back to you. I turn it back to him.
I was trying to get out of here.
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I just have one comment, Vice President Sutton. In the staff report, which includes the attachment, the presentation, and the policy, we do state the policy supports the strategic plan goal of integrated systems and innovative solutions and commences a key objective under this goal. So
I saw it there. I just wanted it in the presentation for the recording, sir. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for reminding me.
Thank you. Director Weiner.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. President. I've been listening to a lot of podcasts regarding AI. And I do have a suggestion for the policy. But before I get there, I'd like to say that the examples that were given by Director Sudduth were formerly done not by AI, but by what's called algorithms. And that was created by programmers. AI has a capability of programming itself, making it something yet again different than anything that we've experienced up to now. So I'm going to just tell you about an interview that I just heard and then make my suggestion, which is along the lines of not using AI for HR. I'd like to firm up in the policy language that can talk about all kinds of things we could use AI for that we should not use it for.
Before you continue, I'd like to correct you. It's Vice President Sudduth.
Oh, Vice President Seth,
Thank you.
sorry. Yeah, if I could only speak English, it would be great. All right, so if I squint, it's not because I'm angry. I forgot my reading glasses. So I heard an interview on Ralph Nader Radio Hour with the New York Times tech reporter Stephen Witt regarding his article, The AI Prompt That Could End the World. The interview begins with the concerning disparate opinions of two computer scientists. Yoshana Bengio, a Canadian computer scientist called the godfather of AI, and his collaborator and co-developer Yann LeCun, AI scientist at Meta. Yoshana says he spends many sleepless nights because he can see how AI could create a biological disaster that destroys mankind. And LeCun says his friend's concerns are laughable. The conclusion I got from the discussion is that the ultimate future of AI is full of possibilities, both horrible and beautiful, and both may be true. Okay, so now to the policy. I would like to see more protective language around people's jobs, something like using AI to work towards infallibility, perfection, or efficiency in the capitalist economic sense or the decision-making sense should not be allowed, as it will lead to a reduction in force and therefore negatively impact the lives of district employees. So that would be my suggestion for beefing up the HR, the intention of the HR idea that you had, Vice President Suth. So,
Wait, can you repeat that? Because
Sure.
I'm trying to figure out where that would go or how that would be said. So
yeah, I'm not,
repeat it for me.
I'm not claiming the language.
No, I
is
understand.
what I
Just
want.
repeat it for
It's
me.
just something like using AI to work toward infallibility, perfection, or efficiency in the capitalist economic sense, the efficient distribution of goods and services, or the efficient, that's what I'm talking about when I talk about capitalist efficiency, which is not a human, humans are not very efficient, just that's your basic truth. And also decision-making sense, that we should seek infallibility or perfection in decision-making through using AI. I recommend for everybody that's interested in looking at a dystopian outcome of AI, they read an old science fiction book called I, Robot by Isaac Asimov, and not review the movie, which was pretty cool, but this was a little different than, the book is a little different than the movie, of course. Just to see what happens when you create a thinking being that can gain intelligence. It's interesting, an interesting story. And I also would recommend listening to the interview I quoted above, the Ralph Nato Radio Hour podcast of November 8th, titled The AI Prompt That Could End the World. And if you listen to that, you might hear what not to ask AI. So that's pretty much my comments on AI. It's, I was at Cal when they invented the internet. And it was invented by scientists at Cal and Stanford. And during the discussions there about the future of the internet, there was a lot of professors and philosophers that were talking about it being a panacea or a poison. And we've come to see the downsides of the internet, like our social media, where we've isolated ourselves from each other and we, say really terrible things because nobody sees us, and we call people names, and it's fractured us as a society. Well, they thought about that way back then. But what happens is the salesmen get a hold of this stuff, and you'll never hear a negative word again. And so we need to be very, 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 very careful of AI, because the salesmen have gotten a hold of it. And they don't have a negative word to say about it, but one of the guys that invented it, he's like worried about it. So I just want to throw that out there, because it's a very powerful thing, but you can ask it a question that will make it lie. It will lie to you if you ask the right question. So just want to throw that out there. But I particularly am concerned that it could replace human beings at the district, and I want language around that in our policy that would prevent that, or at least make it less likely that that would happen.
Thank you. Director Alvarado?
I have no questions. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you. I also have concerns, and for anybody that's really interested in AI, you could just Google AI in 60 Minutes. They've done several stories on it, and it is going to change humanity. And I also would like to express concerns on job loss through AI. It's prevalent, it's everywhere. Right now, musicians are scrambling around to figure out what they're going to do because AI has actually taken the #1 song on the country charts, and they're working on other charts. So it can be scary when you start looking into it. But my concern as well is the job loss or potential job loss through AI. So I'd like to see something in the policy as well. That being said, I want to thank you for, Justin?
Yeah, we should.
Because
because
we
we're-
we had a conversation about this. You want to go first, General Manager? You, or
go first,
one of
Andy.
you?
Any details on it, but.
Yeah, because
as you heard-
I do have a comment about this. You want to say something?
I just wanted to say something quick in front of that. I mean, but Lakima mentioned in her presentation that, and also, I guess you guys had a conversation what kind of language to put in there. We're not even sure that it won't create a need for additional positions at
That's what we
this
talked
point.
about.
We have
That's what
really
we
no
talked about.
idea. That's
Yeah.
why the policy is got a lot of movement, but there can certainly be some kind of language in there that expresses that intent, because it's certainly not the intent. And maybe that's what you guys have already talked about a little bit.
Yes.
Did, and we talked about this in the, so I would encourage you to look at the committee meeting. Go ahead, before I say anything, go ahead, Director King Meredith.
I'm sorry. Yes, that's one of the things, and it was actually expressed, prohibit uses. I mean, it's lined out for prohibited, for being prohibited. And for it to be fully automated, decision-making without human oversight. So therefore, this is why we talk about the sunset too, we have human oversight that is going to be controlling this. This is just a tool, this is a tool that can be worked. So I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, we had this in, Ms. Tanya was here during that meeting because I know I kind of grilled her a little bit about this very issue. And from my notes, and she said that it requires human oversight for any type of decision, and a natural person would intervene in any decision-making process, right? And go ahead.
No, I just wanted to, as it's already been said, that it's, the AI systems that exist right now didn't even exist 3 years ago. So it's, everything is happening so quickly. We don't know exactly the impact that'll have on our organization. And it's very possible that we will need more people. The more AI that we use, the more systems we use, we actually may have to have more people to analyze and review the data that we're having, that we have. So we don't know what's out there, and I think that's also a concern that we did have quite a bit of a discussion during the F&A committee about that. This is helping us, this policy is to help us give us some guidelines and parameters, because AI is everywhere already. So whether you want it or not, it's embedded in your Google Chrome, it's in their cell phones, it's the software companies are already, it's kind of in everything we're using software-wise, it's already there. And so it'll help us give us some parameters when we're looking at our systems of how we use that within the organization.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that because it bothers me every time I go to an automated checkout stand. That a human had that job.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
thank you.
I don't go to automatic checkout stands. My husband says I'm not allowed to.
Yeah,
We have to
I
go to the
appreciate
human.
that.
We have to go to the human. But I did want to bring that up, and that is in the policy under, and thank you, General Counsel, for taking our conversation and making sure you translated it well into the policy. It is in here. It's under the equity, it's under the privacy, and it's under human-centered design. But the anti-discrimination laws would be taken into account, and that AI would never be the sole basis for employment decisions. So if we need to be clearer on that, I think that's fine, but it is in there, and again, we did talk about how it could generate more jobs. But we don't know what we don't know, and that's just the reality. It's changed just in the last year. So, yes, and I don't know about you, but
Looks
I don't
like,
see too many robots waist deep in poop.
Director Weiner, you have something to add before we go to a vote?
I have no criticism of what is in the policy.
Yeah,
I asked to add something,
stronger language.
a little bit stronger language to prevent job loss due to AI. And,
Yeah.
you know, I don't see that as being counter to what we've got. I think you thought this through, and I think the policy is comprehensive, but I did feel a little bit more language around that would be better.
I'd like to say I appreciate the fact that we're all considering that specific item in that way. So that being heard, is there a motion to move the item in a second, by chance?
Yeah, I'll move the item with, give me 1 second. Can I just have a second?
I'll defer to Nicole before we go to the vote.
If I might, another option would be for the board to delegate authority to the general manager to add a sentence of intent at the start. We have sort of these purpose statements at the start of the policy. Add a sentence of intent explaining what the board has discussed today, and he can report back on that once we have had an opportunity to prepare that.
Do that, I have a,
That would be an amendment to the motion.
no,
Right.
I haven't moved it yet. I have a question.
Oh, I didn't say you
I
did.
just have a question.
We're just trying to, either we have the exact language and adopt it, or it's clear, what's not clear, but that's what it might take as well, so we can see.
Yeah.
What the intent, I can add that, and then we can.
I don't want to be eavesdropping. It's a legal question.
So what the hell's the holdup?
I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll find out shortly.
Maybe. Okay.
All right, I have it. Thank you. All right, I have it. All right, may I?
Yes, please.
Thank you. All right, I think I have what I need. And Director King Meredith, from the Finance Committee. So here's my motion. I will move the item with the following amendment under Section 3, Guiding Principles for Responsible AI Systems. I will add an item here that says that the policy will not, that AI will not be used to displace human personnel, but however, I'm going to use the actual wording of that. I'm going to leave that up to the general counsel to wordsmith how that's going to be worded so that it flows with the rest of this wording, that we will not use these systems to displace our human personnel.
And if you can ask for, to bring it back for a second reading.
Well, yes, but first I want to get, I want to get a second, and then we can do that. But I want to have general counsel write it up. And we can actually, she can actually do that here, and then we can table this for later in the meeting and then approve it today.
So if I could, just for the sort of sake of kind of efficiency and moving this forward, I think there's two options in terms of the path for this particular policy. One would be if the board is comfortable delegating authority to myself or to staff to implement these changes. We can report back on what that is, and if the board's unhappy with it at that point, we could certainly bring the item back to the board for further discussion or consideration. Or the board could give us, we can take the feedback you all have given us, and we can bring the item back later. So I think those would be probably the two most efficient options for managing this. It's just a matter of sort of what your level of comfort is. You could delegate the authority now, or you could just ask to see the item back once a change has been implemented.
And Madam Clerk, are you able to hear?
I understand.
Okay. So what is your pleasure?
I'm fine with it. Do you want, wait, I have a motion on the floor, though,
Yes,
so,
that's why I asked, what's your pleasure?
yeah.
I think the clarity that we need is the intent to move the item for approval now with delegated authority?
Yes.
And then the GM will report back, or is the intent to have the
That
entire
is my
item
intent.
brought back?
My intent is the former,
Okay.
is the delegated authority. Do you want a second?
Yes. A second.
Could you read that back to me?
So, Madam Clerk, can you read that back? It is to, the intent is exactly what we've discussed, is that the policy will not displace human personnel.
No, I just want to.
But the delegated authority, but I'm going to
Yeah,
have her
all
read it
that
back to
stuff.
you.
I wanna
Let her
hear
read
all
it
that.
back to you.
So is the request for the additional language, is that, okay, so what we have is adding language to section 3, guiding principles of the policy, that AI will not be used to displace human personnel.
Good?
And
And you've seconded?
Yeah,
You
I
seconded?
seconded.
She seconded. That's it.
Madam Clerk?
Do we have any other, you have to call for any other comments?
I'm still confused.
Okay, he still need clarification.
Yeah, no, I'm not confused about the language. Language is good. It's the process going forward is that
We're
I'm.
going to delegate it to, I'm
We're
going to.
going to, okay, and when we vote, we will vote the policy in with the proviso that that language will be,
Right.
okay.
That
I'm clear.
authority is delegated to fold that language in some form and.
No, I'm clear. Now I know what I'm voting.
And we can add a date to bring it back.
Well, and we'll bring it back, but we won't have to bring it back for adoption, but we'll bring it back, put it on consent as a calendar item, so it's there on the record, and if there's something that, like, you guys object to, we can make adjustments then after that. But
Absolutely.
that way, it's adopted, though, by the action tonight, is what we're.
Right, so it would be brought back probably in a report rather than for formal board action in the future.
We won't
Right.
have an action.
So we had a motion and a second, Madam Clerk?
So as I understand it, it has been moved by I didn't get the second. I was focused on content.
Ms. Annie, Director King Meredith. Director King Meredith.
So it was moved by Vice President Suddeth and seconded by Director King Meredith to approve the policy with an amendment to add language that AI will not be used to displace human personnel or similar language as determined by the general manager.
General Counsel.
General Counsel, thank you.
You want to add the sentence that also that says, and we'll bring it back in a report to the board in its final form?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And it goes under the guiding
And a
principles.
report shall come back to the board in its final form.
Perfect.
All right.
So we have a motion and a second.
Motion second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. That motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on.
Thank you. This one should be less complicated. Next on the agenda is regular calendar item 3, to approve cancellation of the regular board meeting scheduled for December 3rd, 2025. Madam Clerk, have we received any public comments or requests to speak?
Please.
If anyone wishes to comment on this item, please approach the podium or raise your hand in Zoom. Seeing none, we have no public comments.
Are there any comments or questions from the board? Seeing none? Any motion?
Move it.
Second, moved
And I
by-
second.
Can
Don't
we,
rush.
Could you repeat that?
Move the item. I move the item. I move the item.
Okay. All right. On the motion by Vice President Suddeth, and seconded by Director King Meredith to approve regular calendar item 3. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. That motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is regular calendar item 4, to receive information on West County Wastewater District's pension obligations. Madam Clerk, have we received any public comments or requests to speak on this item?
Ms. Allen?
If anyone wishes to comment on item 4, pension obligations, please raise your hand in Zoom or approach the podium. Let me get this off of here so I can see. Okay.
Let me find it.
We have no public comments.
I was looking for it.
Good evening, board members, President Rentilla, Vice President Suddeth, and other board members. I am Maria Bagley. I'm the finance manager, and tonight I'm going to be providing a brief overview of CalPERS, who they are, how their fund kind of operates, the participation, investment returns, and how the returns affect contribution and funding status over time. So CalPERS at a glance. CalPERS roughly manages about $500 billion in assets and serves more than 2.3 million members, making it the largest public pension system in our country. WCW has been participating agency since 1962, and as of June 30th, 2025, our pension liability was about $19.4 million. This scale is super important because it allows CalPERS to diversify these investments, temper volatility, and provide long-term stability for all of its agencies. So this right here, this is the CalPERS buck. You can find a lot of this stuff. Notice the source is at the bottom of the slide at the CalPERS website. So this is just a really quick and good visual that shows how the buck of every pension dollar comes from. This is an average over the last 20 years. So you can see here the largest portion of that CalPERS buck is really the investment returns at 55 cents. 34% of it is coming from employers like West County Wastewater, and 11% comes from its employees or the members that are actually contributing to CalPERS. So this is CalPERS agency members. So CalPERS really has a broad span of types of employers that it covers. It covers the state employees, so that's the state of California employees. It covers schools and public agencies like ourselves. So that's the breakout as of June 30th, 2024. So this is the investment returns. So this chart just shows the CalPERS market values growth and their annual returns over time. This kind of goes back for about 20 years, you can see. You can see pretty high volatile swings. This is, once again, market returns. Everybody knows investment markets they swing and they go up and they go down. You can see strong markets in the mid-2000s, dips around 2018 and 20, and recovering periods following those downturns. Actually, I'll go back. Just to kind of note, once again, these returns make up more than 55% of how CalPERS funds their. All right, investment returns here. So this is just their performance table. So you can actually see their investment returns over the last about 20 years. They did do a press release, looks like July 14th of 2025. They're calling it the preliminary returns for this fiscal year at 11.6%, which is well above their target investment rates. Positive returns, that when CalPERS has positive returns, it essentially offsets future employer costs and employee costs. It doesn't all show up at once, just I want to kind of go into that CalPERS does re-amortize their obligations over a 20-year period, which moderates the impacts on the rates that CalPERS charges to their employers. Oh, what happened? It's not. It was a user hit the wrong button.
Okay.
An error.
All right. All right, so this is the pension outlook specifically for WCW. So over the last couple of years, CalPERS has actually gotten tools where employers like ourselves can put in our own assumptions and do futuristic modeling based on our own data, right? So if you look at this, this is what WCW would look like. I want to kind of point out the assumptions that we used here are on the bottom. So we essentially used a 6.8 discount rate, which is essentially the returns that it's receiving, a 2.3 inflation rate, and a 2.8% payroll covered growth. So that's the percent that our payroll, covered payroll, i.e. pensionable payroll, will grow. And you can see what it looks like with the funded status right there. For us, yeah. Sorry. So we will be about 100% funded. I can't see that. Maybe I'll look this way. It looks like we would be about 100% funded in 2054. Let's try this.
I won't be there to collect.
Nor would I.
So this is our funding outlook, like I said. So accrued liabilities will grow from roughly about 73 million. I know it's really hard to see all these things. This is the base, is the blue line, the market value of our assets and our unfunded liability. So notice that green line is our unfunded liability, and notice over time it goes to fully funded, like I said. So that's that green line. And then notice how our market value of assets goes up and it meets our accrued liability. Once again, that's 2054. But you can see our accrued liability is expected to grow from about 75 million to about 209 million. But once again, it's the funded ratio is essentially fully funded. So this is our pension data demographic here. So this was what we didn't get to present because when we first presented it to the F&A committee, this wasn't out. We go through an actuarial study which essentially looks at all of our employees, their ages, our average pension, and you can kind of see what it shows here. So as of June 30th, 2024, we had 70 active members in our pension. You can see the covered payroll was about 9.5 million. And you can see kind of the member movement where members transferring out and separating, and then also our retired members that we are currently, CalPERS is currently paying from WCW. And you can see underneath there, that just shows that we are about 72%. So I'm just gonna draw your attention to that 72.1. That shows that we're 72.1 funded. All right, so this is the estimated URL that is for our agency. You can see this fiscal year, we have a UAL payment of about 1.8 million, and then you can see that kind of gradually increasing to about 2.3 million. And this is from the actuarial office. You can see that the rate plan is 17.3 versus 7.9, so that's just the difference between the classic members, I think they call them rate plan 502, and then the PEPRA members at 7.9. So that's the employer's cost. And with that, that concludes this presentation. If you guys have any questions, I'm here to answer them.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the audience or online? Thank you. Director Wiener, questions, comments?
Yeah. Can you explain entry age accrued liability?
So the entry age is the entry age at which the participant enters into the system. So if you enter in, let's say, right when you're 18, so your entry age is 18. If you enter in at a later date, let's say 45, that would be your entry age, and that's an average. And what was the second term?
Accrued liability.
Accrued liability, that means the liability that we will have based on the assumption that we would pay that person that benefit. So it's an accrued liability that we have to pay them out for when they retire.
So I'm trying to understand this, so I'm not putting you on the
This could
spot
take a
too.
while.
And I'm not
Why
an
is this so?
I'm not an actuarial, so I may not be able to answer all of the questions, but I do have
No, I
Justin
think
here
I
to-
have a real simple-minded question because I'm simple-minded. But, what, average age, average time in service before retirement is 30 years? What is it? I mean, what are they assuming, since I have an entry age liability that immediately says, I'm 18 years old, and I will, when I retire, I will require to have put, or there should have been put in the system, $1.5 million for my retirement. Isn't that what that statistic is, entry age accrued liability?
I've never heard that.
That's what, I'm just trying to get at what that is.
I think you're pretty close. It's roughly, because these are calculations of estimating of how much is the pension going to have to pay the person once they retire. So there's quite a bit of calculations going into, so they're looking at how many years of service does somebody typically have, what year, so we have our different formulas where it's the classic member of, they say 3% at 60, so they're assuming somebody would retire at 60 versus a PEPRA, which is retiring at 62. So they're calculating, they put in averages of saying how much money do they think they're going to need over the life of this one individual, and then it gets all lumped together. So you're pretty much there of like kind of what that is, and so the accrued liability is how much money they're going to need for everybody who's in the system, or with West County wastewater, assuming everybody retires. So, it doesn't matter how many years somebody works with West County wastewater, the district is responsible to pay that portion of when that person retires out of CalPERS, that portion of the years of service that they worked here. So that's always going to be a liability with us as a district.
Yeah, so we are paying for future, when a person joins, their future retirement is calculated, and that would be our liability.
Right, that's part of the calculation. So that's how they determine what the percentage that the employer share is versus what the employee share is.
And did that change in recent times? So that's why we all have, that's why every agency and city in California has the unfunded liability?
Yeah, because there are several years, we didn't go back in the history of CalPERS, but there were several years that CalPERS lost money on their investment pool. And so the unfunded accrued liability is a way to catch up and make up for those years of losses.
So it was always calculated the same, it just so happened that
Well, they're starting to make up for lost years is part of what the unfunded accrued liability, which we call the UAL, is. But then some agencies in the past, we're talking in the 90s or the 80s, they upped somebody's benefits. And so then that meant over time they'd be more expensive. But they didn't immediately, those agencies or cities or other local governments didn't immediately start paying in the exact amount that they needed. Or they said, employees, you don't have to contribute anything, but that money still needed to be paid somehow. And so we're kind of living off of some decisions that were made 30 years ago or 40 years ago, trying to catch ourselves back up so we're in a better funded position. That's what CalPERS is doing.
This is not in West County Wastewater District's control, but we owe just on the unfunded accrued liability of 1.8 million a year. And I know from looking at the budget over many years, we could use that money and put it to different use than interest. So it concerns me that the state allows this state of affairs to continue and doesn't try to figure out how to reduce that. And to just give you a real extreme example, the city of Richmond, their unfunded liability, $377,759,466, and they pay $25,706,603 annually on the interest of that unfunded accrued liability, which really does hamstring the city council in terms of how much they can spend to better the lives of their citizens. But the fallout is that decisions are made to not hire and use labor from institutions that don't pay retirement. That seems to be the trend in cities. So I don't know how to fix this, but I sure am looking for ways. I think this is really
Thank you.
harmful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Director King Meredith?
I know this was discussed back in July, at our Finance and Administration Committee. So we hashed out quite a bit in order to get to where we're at with this. So I just found all my notes here, and we're not going to go through all those notes. But right now, if something comes up, I'll mention it.
Thank
Okay?
you.
Thank you.
Director Alvarado?
I would defer to Vice President Sudduth.
Well, let's do that, Vice President Sudduth.
Gracias. Gracias, especially for the changes. First comment, I'm going to say what we say, but, I mean, thank you, because we did have a really good meeting to talk about this. And we did talk about making sure, about the acronyms. You know, it's like put people in mind the acronyms, right? Because people don't know the acronyms. We know them, you know them, but not everybody knows the acronyms. So making sure that we address the acronyms. Thank you for the updates, because as you say, we didn't have these updates. We didn't have these updates when it came to us back in July. And so it's good to see the numbers. I do want to, can you put the presentation back up? A couple of things that I wanted to bring, especially to the board's attention and to everyone's attention, because there was a couple of things that we talked about at the committee meeting that I wanted to highlight, and I'm going to repeat what I said before in the last presentation. I know, I read the staff report, so I know what's in the staff report, but I wanted to make sure we go back again, because one of our core things in our strategic plan is about our finances, right? So we're always going to tie every presentation back to the strategic plan, right? Yes. So that's, but if you go to the presentation on the CalPERS book, do you have it? Yeah, if you put that one up, Miss Lakima has to come back up to the front.
Yeah, let's do that.
She's shaking her head, she doesn't want to come back up. No. So while she's finding it, so the CalPERS book, can you just explain to people what that means and what that means from here and there? Because when we talked about this, we talked about how, I know I say specifically, I don't want to get into a finance lesson. Right?
So that was a visual, so I just want to make,
Make sure so that to keep from having to go down into the weeds, you did a beautiful job of putting that dollar up there, right?
and that visual is also found on CalPERS website, that's so,
I said, I want you to make sure you said that to people so that
I
they
did.
know that there's
And
no-
it's also on this bottom of the slide.
You did a good job of making it bigger, and to make sure people understand that that's not West County's dollar.
Correct, that
right?
is CalPERS investments dollar.
It's not even within, it's not even within Miss Maria Baglia's control,
No,
right? It's
no.
not within GM's control, it's not within West County's control. Who controls it?
CalPERS,
And who controls it?
CalPERS.
Thank you. I just want people to know, so don't be adding you or adding us about why
Cal government.
why this dollar is split up the way that
California.
it is. But if they can get to it,
California government.
Yeah.
where is it?
So,
Right here,
yes,
right?
yeah.
And it's changed a little bit, right?
So that is the dollar, so that is every dollar that they pay out. So that's CalPERS investment. So that is every dollar of the pension money that they pay out, 55 cents of that comes from CalPERS investments. 34 cents on every dollar comes from the employers. So that's employers like West County Wastewater, City of Richmond, and then 11 cents coming from the employees. So that means everybody who's part of a pension system, when you receive a dollar, 11 cents of it was your original.
Was you guys' money. So 11 cents of every, when you get your money, 11 cents of it is yours. So they're giving you back 11 cents of your own money, right? And then on the next one, can you go to the next one? Out of the 2.3 million members, because these are the ones we talked about with one interest in, right? 31.1% of public agency members,
Right.
which is pretty huge. And I think you broke it down for us how much that is, or what that means, right? There was a benchmark in the investment returns. I don't know if that's in this. I didn't
It's
see
not in this one, so this is just the member makeup, the
this is the
classification.
number, and the next one was the investment returns was,
So that is the graphical, the graphical.
the graph, but it was like 6.8% interest was the benchmark that you gave us.
That's, yeah.
So that is the same graph, but that is just showing their actual returns. So essentially, that's just a table format, so you can see from right there, it mentions like when we had negative returns in 21 and 22. The assumptions of 6.8 is the assumption on the return that we had for our own. So that's in a later slide. And yeah, you can see that too at the bottom. So they're also discounting it as 6.8. So their target is a 6.8 on investment returns. But like you can see, they've kind of beaten that, right? So even this year, they've almost doubled it, well, close to 11.6%.
The last thing I want is for you to just to address this. What the pension outlook is based on. I think we talked about this. The basis of it is
So this,
that you gave us the data source.
the data source is CalPERS. Yes,
If they want more information, they go to,
CalPERS.
just say it.
CalPERS website, which is down there, calpers.ca.gov.
Recording. I just want them to know. And then the funding outlook, the basis is,
CalPERS.
and the data source is,
CalPERS.
and if they want more information,
They go to that website.
just say it.
Yeah, www.calpers.ca.gov.
Thank you. And then when the unfunded share is up, how is the unfunded share up? If membership drops, then what happens to liability?
The liability can go down because you're removing people. So you essentially, membership goes up, they don't have as much liability.
Simple formula.
Kind of.
So just repeat that one more time so people understand. What happens to the unfunded shares?
So it would go down. So the unfunded liability is based on the number of participants in the pool. So if you go through reduction in membership, then the liability would also reduce.
And then you increase the number of,
Most likely, the liability would increase.
that's all I need. The rest is,
All right,
Thank you.
got that, Annie? Was there anything else, Director King? That's what I was asking you about. No. That's it, right? That's it. Okay. So, you get the breeze through.
You did.
That's all for me, sir.
You done?
That's it.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say it for the record.
Which is why I deferred to her.
I did want to say that Vice President Sudduth and I were at the mayor's conference in Danville, and I happened to be walking alongside the city manager, and I asked him what their unfunded liabilities were, and he said 0. They're on a different, they do 401 and profit sharing, so I was floored because Richmond Finance, Mombeen from the Finance Committee told me that our unfunded liability in the city of Richmond is $440 million, which is close to $500 million.
The number I gave was given to me by the treasurer of Richmond.
The treasurer?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Also, I just wanted to ask, how many people, you said, I saw the number 19.4 million. How many people does that include?
So that's based on 70 active member
Okay,
count.
that's right, I missed that. All right, and then I just wanted to say for the record that you could always go to Transparent California if you're a government worker and see how much an individual is making. So that's always handy. Well, I want to thank you for your presentation,
Thank you.
and I guess we'll move on. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is regular calendar item 5, to receive an update and consider possible direction regarding the project stabilization labor agreement. Madam Clerk, have we received any public comments or requests to speak on this item?
If anyone wishes to speak on this item, please approach the I'm sorry.
I was going to say.
We have received speaker cards. So I have a speaker card for Tim Spronzi and Don Gosney. I've received Tim's first, so Tim will go first.
Thank you. Would you like to come up to the podium?
Tim, as a reminder, you typically have 3 minutes to speak unless.
Just 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. President, honorable directors. Tim Sobrani, I'm the Executive Director of the Contra Costa Building Construction Trades Council. Came before you earlier this year, was weeks into my job, now settling into the position and here to speak in favor of the PSLA. Just want to say, just in the short period of time I've been in this position, trying to work hard to increase our engagement in West Contra Costa in terms of bringing residents into the trades. We've expanded our partnership at Kennedy High School in terms of the number of classes that are offered, pre-apprentice, multi-craft core curriculum, offered increased spots in our summer camp, and has also helped successfully with a trade fair in San Pablo. So we're trying to do a lot more within the community. We feel this agreement has been beneficial both for our members, but more importantly for the district and the ratepayers. And I think it's just important to take a step back, to 2021 in terms of the reasons why the agreement is entered into. It's to try to get projects done on time and on budget with the best skilled and trained workers that you can. And I think as we've seen from staff, with very, very few exceptions in 5 years, the capital projects have been successfully delivered on time and on budget. And I think when you're talking about wastewater, it's so important from a public health standpoint that those projects are done correctly with the best skilled and trained labor that is there. When I came before you earlier this year, I became aware of the concern as it relates to trying to increase the amount of local residents that were working on these projects. Keeping in mind that there are some constraints, it's the contractors who end up dispatching workers. It's not something that the building trades directly controls. But we want to do our best to improve our good faith efforts to increase, the amount of people from the local community who are dispatched onto the job. So we've been able to strategize with staff and also was asked by staff to present to the Finance and Admin Committee. And I think we were able to identify some strategies. I think specifically, they all really center around communication. The Joint Administrative Committee, specifically, that'll meet on an ongoing basis, quarterly preferably, so that way we know what projects are coming up ahead of time. The communication loop as it relates to the contractors. You guys approve a contract on Wednesday, and your staff puts me in touch with those contractors on Thursday so we can make sure they understand when they're doing their pre-jobs, that our preference is to try to dispatch from the local community. Nonprofit partner CTWI, the Construction Training Workforce Initiative, to increase our engagement and also contractor education about ways that they can increase the pool of local workers that are dispatched that meet the standards. So again, we're proud of the work that we've done, the labor that we provide. We think the best days of the agreement are ahead of us, especially if we implement these strategies to bring more of a local workforce to bear. And, we're hoping that we can be able to continue with this agreement for many years to come. I'll be here in the audience, and if there are any questions that come up in your conversation, if called upon by the President, happy to address those. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, next speaker.
Thank you. Before you start the clock, just a little point of order. It's incredibly difficult for people, even in the front row, to hear and understand what a lot of you are saying. Okay, for a lot of reasons, but okay. My name is Don Gosney. I was born here 71 years ago. I've spent my whole life here, and I will likely die here. Many of you may have seen or heard me over the decades because it seems I stick my fingers in a lot of pies. On June 12, 1970, I stuck my finger in the construction pie and have been a major fixture in this Plumbers and Steamfitters Local 342. I'm a retired president of my union and have been in the senior management on several billion-dollar projects. Part and parcel of being with Local 342, I've been a part of the Contra Costa Building and Construction Trades Council and have also served as a delegate on the Central Labor Council here these past 35 years. I've negotiated a great many project labor agreements and have worked on many, even more projects that have successfully utilized them. As a matter of fact, over the past 55 years I've been doing this, I've never seen a PLA work project that ever experienced a labor issue, a major safety issue, or a project deadline issue. These things just don't happen. You already know that if public funds are used for a project, you are statutorily required to pay prevailing wages and benefits. In the 9-county Bay Area, these are union wages and benefits. If you have to pay union wages and benefits, why not use the best trained, highest skilled, safest craftsmen and women out there? It just seems like a no-brainer, but we find a lot of people that will always ignore these attributes, largely because they just hate the idea of a union. Some are taught this hatred from birth, while others through osmosis listening to Fox News and reading it on Truth Social. I'm only going off of comments heard at your earlier meetings and comments said off camera, but there seems to be a loud demand that the PSLA include language that would give special consideration to an employee based on the color of their skin, their gender, maybe their religion, their residency, and even their sexual orientation. We used to have a lot of laws and community covenants that covered the exact same ideas, except they were meant to exclude people based on all of those attributes. And that's why we have passed so many laws that make it illegal to include such language on contracts or housing covenants. So why would anyone want to reopen that door and discriminate against someone based on any of that? Back when I was at Cal, for all the wrong reasons, I tried to transfer to Stanford. The admission lady gave me a strange look and asked, "Why are you trying to transfer? We're not taking white males this year." It only took 7 years for the Supreme Court to come up with a Bakke decision, which clearly stated that discrimination for one group is discrimination against another. Surely this board does not stand for discrimination, does it? Same goes for residency. You may have noticed, for instance, that any city limit lines for the cities in the 9-county Bay Area are imaginary lines on a piece of paper. In the real world, we are one really big community. Something else in this idea that the building trades should pay the district a fee for enacting this PSLA. If you look up the definition of extortion, I think you'll find that this fits the bill to a T. What we're offering is an opportunity for the district to use the best qualified, safest craftsmen available, and you really want us to pay for this privilege? You can call it a community benefits package, but if you do, this shows a naivety about how things work. If you want to know more about PSLAs and how they really work, how the real world works, give me a call at 510-685-2403 or email me at dongosney@comcast.net.
Thank you. Do we have any other speakers?
I'd like, if I didn't receive a speaker card, anyone else who wishes to comment to approach the podium or raise your hand in Zoom. We have no further comments.
Thank you. Is there anyone from the audience? No? Well, thank you. Moving on, next item. Oh, I'm sorry. Are there any comments from the directors? Yeah, I forgot about that.
Did you want me to say no? I mean,
Well, yeah, I do, but I want to get to you. I want to hear the other directors first. Yeah.
Mr. President, we're going to
Thank
give
you,
a
President
short
Tila.
presentation from staff just to,
Yeah.
Just Justin Lovell, Deputy General Manager. I just want to give you a brief overview of where we're at with what has been happening over the last several months with the PSLA. So just to start off, the PSLA was adopted by the board and it became effective in 2021. So we're approaching the first 5-year mark. So really with the PSLA, the core of it is that we are getting quality work and we don't have work stoppages. And I think that has been demonstrated that is what has happened in this PSLA. We've gotten bids for projects that qualify there under the PSLA. We have quality work, and the work has gotten done. So I think that's been mentioned. So we presented as staff an update on where we are with the PSLA in April of that year. We received some feedback from the board. And so staff, Angela, Andrews, myself, have been having discussions with the building trades, with Tim Sabrani, who is here giving his remarks. We have been discussing any potential amendments to the existing PSLA, because the way the agreement is written, that there will be, if there are no changes to the PSLA, it'll automatically extend another 5 years. But the board does have an ability to make amendments to the agreement at this time. And so we're looking at some minor changes to the agreement. We're nearly there. We'll be presenting those changes to the F&A committee, and then we'll be coming to the full board with those specific language changes. A lot of it has to do with definitions of covered work, or what's definitions of local hire, is also about the meeting times and having a committee, just making sure that we're having regular dialogues and communications about future projects with the trades. So with that, the other piece that we are looking for as staff, just because of the last 5 years, we've had significant cost inflations, that we maybe would like the board to consider increasing the amount of covered work from 1 million to 1.2 million. Just that would get us through the next 5 years. We know there's going to be additional cost increases, and so we think that that would be a reasonable amendment to that piece. So that's something for the board to consider, and whether you can give us some direction. But with that, I would just like to just kind of end that and turn it over to the board, and have any discussion about any thoughts about the existing PSLA agreement or direction for us.
So before we go to board comment, Director or Vice President Sadeth, you had some discussion on at the Finance Committee, so would you care to elaborate on that?
Sure. Director Meredith and I had we had a long discussion. We had a really, actually a good presentation from building trades and from the construction trades workforce initiative. That's in last month. Director Meredith, you want to start with your comments, and then I will give you my feedback on your comments.
Okay.
Ma'am.
Thank you, Chair Sutter. Yes, we had a very robust meeting that took on a length of time, and we had several questions for moving forward for what we were looking for once we had the presentation. One of the things we really wanted to have in place was the good faith efforts, and to consider. I'm sorry I didn't recognize you when I came in, sir, but yes, you did make a presentation, and we talked about the good faith. The other thing that we really discussed, you had explained to us the layouts where you had for local hiring and the different sites that was in place for the hiring, and to look for individuals to consider these different works that was being presented to them as a pre-apprenticeship, and how you had stationed at Kennedy High School and at Richmond High. One of the things that we felt in the discussion, Chair Sutter and I, that for the indication that was sent to us for local hiring stood at 0, 0, we had a lot of zeros, and we were wondering why that had taken place. Our suggestion at that time was for us to add in other sites that would probably bring in the notification that we have local hiring here, and we wanted to get those individuals on the roster. We're still working on that. It was several that we had mentioned that has a lot of notoriety of coming in, looking for jobs at this point. But to see that we have something in place, that why not add this network with you all have in order to bring those zeros to a plus. The other thing was that the community outreach that we spoke about, seeing about having more community outreach with these individuals that we had mentioned for you to put on this roster. I have several other things, but I think that was one of the key, that was one of the, that good effort. I think that's was really, that we really talked about more so, because at both presentations, we kept seeing the 0, 0, 0. And we had suggested to give you more information for outreach. So with that, I'm just gonna stop right there and turn it back over to the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Director Community. And thank you, Mr. Sabrani. Thank you, because where we are after that conversation and before that conversation, and the last time you presented to us, is way down the road. And so I appreciate your coming to the Finance Committee and giving us that update, because I feel better settled in my chest in that previous conversation, because that previous conversation left us with, yeah, no. It was a hard no, it was a hard pass, because people in West County deserve to have jobs too. And yeah, I don't prescribe to the theory that it's the people in one of the most depressed areas of Contra Costa County should not have opportunity, as we discussed and you all agreed. And it wasn't just and we didn't give a quota, and we're still not getting a quota. What we asked for was good faith effort. And when we have programs like over at the Veterans Hall and the Helmets to Hard Hats, and the program at Kennedy High, and we have, programs at Richmond Builds and Richmond Works and San Pablo EDC and Contra Costa College and all of our trade institutions, and all of them came to us zero. Not just zero hires, but zero outreach. No one there knew of any of these programs. Zero pre-apprenticeships, zero hires, nada. That was a problem. Again, when you came to us in your commitment to working with staff to make sure that that doesn't occur anymore, that does, and I want to tell the rest of the board, that does sit better with us. The commitment to changing that around is a good one, because before we got worse, but we got no action. And if nothing else, I'm about action. So, a man is only as good as his word. So you give us your word, are you willing to work through this with general manager and deputy general manager, and we're willing to get this done, put this into place. We still got work to do. So don't go out and buy some steaks tonight, but we still got work to do. I don't eat steak, I'm a vegan, but we still got work to do. But we're willing to let you guys keep talking about this, bring this back to us to work this through. We still got a little bit of time, rest of the board, to work this out. But one of the most exciting things that I've heard from CTWI, Construction Trades Workforce Initiative, I hate saying acronyms without saying the word, and what we all agreed on, which Mr. Sabrante just mentioned, was this joint administrative committee where we would meet with several different, one of, somebody from the committee, somebody from the trades, someone from staff, to make sure we're on track. So we don't get into these years 3 with zeros, which was a problem, right? Having the management team announce when they're approving contracts, to have during the meeting announce that this partnership exists, so that the contractors, and please, Mrs. Brandy, if you can correct me if I get this wrong, because I was taking notes. I believe that, or Deputy General Manager, I believe we said that there would be an announcement of the partnership when we're approving the contract, right? And that would be said during the meeting or the pre-bid meeting or something like this.
That is existing in our specifications currently, because that is part of that.
We want it announced during the meeting so that they know that once you get the award, you would be working with building trades so that they know the expectation. It's one thing to put it in the paper. And it's another thing to say to them, we're going to do this, we're gonna do the matchmaking. Now, okay, you have the contract, now, here, we're turning them over to you. Because I think that's where the communication was that was the lapse. And so now, and then you guys will make the call to say, hey, we just awarded this contract. Mr. Sovereignty, building trades, we just awarded this contract. Here's who it is, you guys take over. Do your cheers. Ms. Angela, I think that's what we talked about at the meeting.
I'm just gonna,
No, well, I just wanted to say, Angela Andrews, Director of Infrastructure and Planning, just wanted to say that the project managers do an introduction, so they make them, they request for the contractor to sign a agreement to be bound, and that's when they make the introduction to the trades. So there is a matchmaking that happens with the project manager, with the trades. But I just wanted to make sure that was acknowledged from previous practice.
I know, but I think what we said was there was something different that was going
Yeah, that's different. I just wanted to acknowledge that the matchmaking is happening currently.
currently.
Yeah.
We did want to make sure it's happening even stronger, right, going
Right.
forward. And I think that's happening. Thank you, Mrs. Brandon, is making sure it's putting this into place. I want to make sure the board knows that this is the different things that are happening now. That was not happening when we had all the zeros, right? Correct? Yes. Somebody said correct. There's no way you were having the zeros, you weren't having this communication, right?
I'll get it.
In the Cleaning Green project, we did have 2 efforts from the union halls and apprenticeship programs, but the other outreach efforts were 0. I just wanted to clarify that.
I'd like to ask Mr. Sobrani if you could step up to the podium as well.
Yeah, you can come up here too. And then we had, this was how it happened in the meeting. This is what we were going through in the meeting. The other thing is that we were going to have regular engagement, right? This is what Ms. Andrews and Mr. Sobrani and Deputy General Manager level were talking about, where we would talk about what are the local hiring challenges and then come up with some solutions together, right?
So I can speak to that a little bit. So one of the things that I can do is when we are announcing projects as part of the capital plan, we'll give the construction trades an update of when those projects will be coming and presented to the board, and identifying which projects could possibly be under that over that threshold. We are also reviewing the good faith efforts and outreach section of the form that we submit, and looking at updating that form. I've submitted the list of organizations to administrative services and legal to review, but currently the local and apprenticeship programs have been the 2 that have been most identified in the forms. And just the most current update we received in October, it was for the Cleaning Green project, where we identified 8 local hires, and they, again, were identified in the local union halls and apprenticeship programs.
I'd like to have you come up and,
Okay, let me say, the pre-job conference, we'd be educating and providing technical assistance to the contractors, especially small and local contractors. Okay?
And I think that's the things that have the additional connection piece is, in addition to, the contractor does get the agreement to be bound from the staff, so that's happening. The additional piece, and I use the example of the city of Pittsburgh, when they award a contract, they have their council meeting on Monday night, and their public works directors sending me an email on Tuesday. It's like a warm handout. Hey, we just approved this contract. Here's the contractor, great. So then I'm able to also be a part of those warm handoffs in terms of just, hey, let's, local hire is a priority here, trying to, dispatch where we can. Again, it's not a set quota, it's a good faith effort, but at least, putting them in touch with CTWI, who's working in the city of Oakland, the Port of Oakland. We're bringing them here a little bit more into Contra Costa County about working with contractors to do what they can to beef up those numbers, recognizing that it's never going to be 100%, it's not a set quota, it's just a good faith effort. But if we're all in the loop from day one, then it really does with those metrics.
That's the part I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted you to say.
That's right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was only the good faith effort that I was looking for. We were looking for a specific number. We weren't looking for a specific number. We were looking for the GFE. That's it. And there was something you said about the union can assist with getting more bids if they know ahead of, if you know ahead of time. So can you speak to that, please?
That's a great point. I'm glad you raised that because we actually can, we have signatory contractors. So I think part of having the JAC, which we have in some of our other PLAs, by having that joint administrative committee, so then that way your staff is sharing with us each quarter, hey, here's the projects that we expect to come to bid, so we can help drum up from our signatory contractors bids for you. So that way competitive bids, and a lot of times that's going to lead to better work. So sometimes we know on the front end, I think sometimes right now it's a little more reactive. Contractors bid, we're not really involved in that process. But if we know ahead of time, again, we're not the ones doing the bids, we're labor, we're not the contractors. But we tell our contractors, hey, West County Water, this is due on the 15th, get your bids in, and some do, some don't, but if we can be a part of that process, I think you'll get better bids.
And talking about the JAC, and this is probably my favorite thing that came out of our 2-hour conversation, was establishing that joint administrative committee that would monitor the PLA and local hiring, but we would meet quarterly. You want to talk about that really quick?
Yeah, I think, and we've seen this in other, a lot of times what'll sometimes be written is like no less than 2 times a year, but it can be quarterly. And where we're able to share different things. So sometimes you have a joint administrative committee. It's made up of, representatives of the district, representatives of the trades. So it'd probably be me, a couple of leaders of our affiliates. So we'll get updates from your staff about, hey, here's the projects that are going out to bid. So that's speaking to that point that I just raised, where we can help get some of our signatory contractors to bid. But then also speaking to Director King Meredith's point, we could hear about, hey, have you talked to the Veterans Hall? Hey, have you, what's the engagement with, certain groups that maybe we're already heavily engaged with? So sometimes it's like, hey, yeah, Richmond Build, Youth Build, yeah, we were just there at their graduation. So sometimes it's us sharing info, and then other times it's like, hey, that's a community group that maybe we could, to get into a pre-apprentice program or something like that. So we're happy to do that because our goal is to get as many people into the trades as possible. We just need to make sure we have work for them on the back end. And that's always one of the tricky things. That's why these agreements are so important, because we don't want to accept 100 apprentices, and then if there's no work for them, then they can't even get their hours to become journeymen. So I think for us, it's, these things all tie together. But having that committee, it's just communication. If there's issues with the PSLA, we know about it from your end. If there's things on our end that we want to bring up, it's just again, communication can solve a lot of issues.
I think that was the other thing we talked about, making sure that in that communication, and I think that I will give this to General Counsel and the General Manager. One of the things we talked about was going back to the GFE and the local, the outreach in the local Ohio was how are we tracking the residents over time? How are we tracking those who are coming through these programs over time? We're not saying go out and all of a sudden everybody has to leave in Wisconsin. This is what we asked for, as we talked about. We just want to track. We just want. If you do have challenges getting people from West County, okay, that's fine. Let's see it. So are we going out and I think it was either you or it was the young lady from
Megan, the deputy exec, yeah.
saying, we can do some tabling at the Contra Costa Community College sometime. You see, she said she did some already. We can do some joint events where we're going out and we're doing some joint.
We have career fairs.
What do you, yeah, that's the
Right.
word, career fairs. We're doing joint career fairs and looking for that, and then we can have these numbers for us in Q3 and Q4, right? For Q3 and Q4, we can look at this GLP and see, and then we can make some better headway into where we pay for, FY '27. And Director King,
Right, I do.
sorry, I was gonna leave.
That's okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I just want to just chime in and you did hit up on it about when the bids go out. One of the things I did mention in our conversation that, sometimes people hear it 24 hours before and then, they miss the boat. And one of the things we talked about, knowing what's coming down the pipeline, if we can let them know, in the next few months, not saying particular, but let them know these jobs are coming up. And that was one of the other things that was a disconnect, a lot of people don't hear until the last minute. And then they can't get ready for the job. So we talked about that, and I just wanted, I thought about that, and I just wanted to reiterate that on back end of saying, that we have jobs, but to put it out at a decent time or to let it be a notification that they're coming down the pipeline.
To get our signatory contractors to bid. And just CTWI is a great data partner. So I think some of that data that you're looking for, they're, again, that's one of the things that they specialize in. They can work with your staff. The other thing I just want to allude to when we're talking about tracking where folks live, one of the points that I referenced at the Finance and Admin Committee, I said, sometimes you might have someone that comes through Richmond Build, or they came through Youth Build, they came through Richmond Build, went to Kennedy High School, born and raised, families here, but then if they move, to Martinez, Pittsburgh, wherever, but they're still, I consider them, they're still Richmond true and true. They just were but they did all their training here, they did all their pre-apprentice, lived here, then they maybe moved. So those are things that CTWI, we know where these folks are, so it's also just helpful information for your staff and for the board to say, no, you know what, sometimes we have more of an impact, even if they're not currently a resident, they maybe were a resident as recently as a year or two ago, came through a Richmond program. Not everybody that comes through a program and becomes a journey person automatically lives here after, but they're still tied to this community.
That's right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just don't want everybody coming from,
Out of the, yeah.
So if you don't mind staying up there for a minute, we'll move on to Director Weiner.
Oh,
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
The last time this came before the board, I recommended we just renew the PSLA. The renewal without further negotiation is described in our current agreement. I discovered that the district chose a different path in the minutes of the Finance Committee. I don't think the matter should have been brought to the committee without permission of the board, or at least the knowledge and approval of the president. It appeared that the legal counsel was involved in the discussion. I don't think spending money on legal counsel is necessary. Going forward, I will not support a contract proposal that substantially changes the current PSLA. I would like to speak to those assembled here regarding the necessity of labor unions in our current economic situation. This is general principle for me. For 40-plus years, as a nation, at every level of government, down to the local government, we have supported capital over labor. It has created a Gilded Age, where 3 families at the top own more wealth than the bottom 50%. There are many things that can be done to correct this massive wealth inequality, and one of the most important is to support labor through labor unions. Am I boring you?
No, I'm sorry, go ahead. Continue.
I find it pretty rude that you are having your little side conference while I'm talking. I want to thank all of our union brothers and sisters for showing up. in solidarity in supporting our district's PSLA.
Thank you. Director Alvarado.
Yeah, thanks for all the information that we got today. I especially want to thank Vice President Suddiff for bringing all this information to the board so we can have this information available when we review this for the renewal. There's still a lot of questions I have, but it's something that possibly we can meet in the future to talk about. But thank you.
Always happy to meet with any board member. Thank you.
Thank you. I have some reservations regarding the 1 million mark to 1.2 million, but I also am curious why no one has mentioned the fact that we have a large pool of people that are ready to work, but are they qualified? Because there are certain qualifications before you can even get into the apprenticeship program.
That's right.
And I didn't hear that mentioned at all. I mean, you have to have a GED or a high school diploma for one.
Absolutely.
There's drug testing. There's a whole litany of things that haven't been mentioned. And so I would appreciate that being brought to us so we know we don't tell somebody that doesn't qualify that, hey, there's a job opening.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
And on top of that, I may qualify for, someone may qualify for the iron workers, but they won't qualify for the millwrights or the pipe fitters or the sheet metal workers. So that needs to be brought forward.
those are all 100% correct points. I mean, I think it kind of goes without saying, obviously, you're going to want to have people who are qualified for the jobs. If they're not qualified for the job, they can't be dispatched. Part of being qualified, what we try to do is we do pre-apprentice programs to try to help with those qualifications. And then the only people that are dispatched to your jobs, and this has been the case for the last 5 years, assuming this gets approved for the next 5 years, they have to be, you know, they come through the halls, and they're if they're apprentices, you know, they're year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, whatever they are, they're at a certain level. They only do work related to their level. They don't do anything above that level. They do what they're trained for. And then you have a certain amount of journey persons that are trained at a certain level, and you're right. Certain people, if they're millwrights, you know, they're trained, and if that work needs to be done, that work is done. Ironman, sheet metal, same thing. So I think that is that's a correct statement, and that's an important part of the PSLA is that's all monitored, you know, because you have signatory contractors that are paying at the correct rate, at the correct job classification, and only people who are being dispatched, you know, you have that confidence in knowing, yeah, they're trained in their craft, and you're going to get the best out there. And we just don't hire off the streets. And that's one of the best values of a PSLA, having that in place is, you know, you're hiring people who are qualified through the halls.
Thank you. I want to thank everybody for their comments and your presentation. Greatly appreciated, and I'm hoping to see you soon.
Great. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Board. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Now, moving on.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is other business, item 6, reports from staff, general manager, and general counsel, which includes the quarterly investment report for the quarter ending September 2025 and a use of public resources training. Madam Clerk, have we received any written comments or requests to speak on this item?
We have not. If anyone wishes to comment on this item, please approach the podium or raise your hand in Zoom. Seeing none, we have no public comments.
No reports from general manager, additional reports from general manager or counsel.
Are there any questions or comments from the board? Director Wiener?
Are we at director's comments, or are we
Not yet.
still?
No, we're at the general manager, and if you have any questions about the investment report, we can answer those.
Oh, no. I've seen that report enough that I actually understand it.
Director King Meredith?
No, I did not.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Director Alvarado?
No questions.
Vice President Sedith? Thank you, and I have none either. Thank you. Next item.
And the final item on the agenda is item 7, director's comments, meeting report. What did I miss? I missed something.
Public resources training.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I just asked.
Yeah. It's okay.
I mentioned it, and then I skipped right on through.
Yeah, one moment,
Calling
please.
it up.
Thank you.
Control no. Oh, come on.
Please stand by.
Stand by. Can I just take this opportunity to say I appreciate having Lakima so much. It is cold in here. So I just sent the presentation.
Yeah, it's okay. Not everybody can do this type of work. Yes.
Freezing. Beautiful. My teeth is chattering. Yeah.
And this guy was a representative for the Black Union. You know, Don? Oh, yeah. Recording in progress. We were separated at birth. There you go. One moment, please. There we go.
She's gonna get a compliment.
She might have to take a week off.
No, I skipped her and the presentation. It's coming. I never talk about where I don't expect it, the threshold.
I said, they don't say not to use it. I said, she gonna tell us how to use it and not go to jail. It's like when they say, sexual harassment training. I said, do you mean anti, or you gonna tell us how to do it and get away with it? Which way it is? Yes, yes. It doesn't say, it say not to do it. You just say sexual harassment training. So you teaching us how to get away with it. Discrimination training. Okay, you teaching me how to discriminate, or you teach me not to? Which way? It is.
Yeah, yeah. And they talking about he couldn't understand anybody from the front row. I was about to say. Because you old. Do you need a name? Do you need to hear that? What do you need? I can't hear. But he's off phone. I can't hear you.
It's cold in here. I don't know what y'all talking about.
He can't hear nobody.
Please stand by. We're having technical difficulties. Yeah.
He think I care.
Sorry.
So what is the issue? We're not recording? Oh.
It's cold here. No better than that.
Good to go. Oh, see that?
Why didn't I-
You should have said that
Yeah,
earlier.
Exactly.
Should have said that earlier. It would have came through.
If you don't go through, I'm just going to go on without you.
Again, my apologies.
You're minding my own business. I'm minding my own business.
Good.
Nobody talking about me. I'm minding my own business.
Some of the members, they don't understand that Tim can't mandate
I don't want to
what unions do. Tim's just a middleman. Yeah, I know.
I can just proceed. I think we've made an excellent effort getting the slide deck up, and we can just move on.
Every time you say stop.
You just have to threaten the
As soon as you give
PowerPoint,
up,
otherwise.
As soon as you give up.
All right, thank you, directors. So this evening, I'm going to provide a brief training on use of public resources. We're going to cover the use of public resources generally, the mass mailing prohibition, campaign and political activities, and compensation and reimbursement policies. Get to it. Okay. All right. So the use or the misuse of public resources applies to public resources in all its various forms. It applies if you have an employee or an officer that is using the public resources or the gift of funds or other goods to an individual who's outside of the agency by an employee or an officer. That can be a family member, that can be a nonprofit entity, that can be a retiree, any other person, any other organization. It applies to all of that. And so while it is obvious that the personal or political use of public resources is not allowed, we still see a number of really brazen examples of this kind of thing. But we do know that that's not permitted, so I think it's helpful to talk about some of the less obvious examples of misuse of public resources. So the first I will talk about is surplus property. If an agency is disposing of surplus property, it would be improper for an individual to simply take that property, an employee, an officer, anything along those lines, because effectively they are getting access to free or discounted items simply by virtue of their public position. And so that's why the agency has a surplus property policy, so that when the agency needs to dispose of surplus property, we are confident that there are no conflicts of interest, that we're making sure that we're following a process and making it available to the public, and not simply having kind of an inside avenue for folks to access those resources when an agency is looking to dispose of items. Staff time. Staff time, when staff is on the clock, that's agency time, that's time that should be used for the public agency's purposes. And so staff time used for really any other purpose, whether it's personal or political, is not allowed, impermissible under the rules relative to a use and misuse of public resources. Other items, copiers, phones, that's where it gets a little bit gray. It's a little bit difficult to know where the line is and whether or not a use truly is de minimis. So the example that I use, which is I think an outdated example, but I use it anyways because I think people understand it, is if you have an individual who is making a long distance call on an agency phone every week, and there's no cost because it's all wrapped up into the agency's long distance plan. There's no specific charge for that call. So what's the harm? And I would say that the concern and the risk is that when the agency is looking at its needs for a long distance phone plan at the start of the year or however often, all of those uses are being folded up and it's being calculated, saying, oh, look, we have this much, these types of needs for long distance phone plans, so we're gonna opt for a higher plan, a more expensive plan, so that we can capture all of these needs. It's important when you're looking at these less obvious examples of the use or misuse of public resources that you're sort of challenging your thinking and thinking, is this something that really may have a greater use than I see or than perhaps I anticipate? Got it. Thank you. So the next topic here is the mass mailing prohibition. State law specifically prohibits the sending of newsletters or mass mailings at public expense. And so that means something that features the name, the picture, or other reference to an elected official where you have 200 or more substantially similar items in 1 month. The language of the law is very broad. It's as broad as I've described it up here. But it also has a number of exceptions. I've included a few of them here on this list. So it's really important to know that when an agency is mailing out large numbers of tangible things that may have references to elected officials on them, that we're careful to make sure that we're not on the wrong side of this mass mailing prohibition. The reason for the mass mailing prohibition is really to make sure that public officials aren't using public resources to build up their reputation in advance of an election. So where you have an elected official who's going to be going out to the voters and asking for their votes, that they haven't first used public resources to some great degree to promote themselves, to promote their work, to just simply make themselves more recognizable to members of the public. That's what this particular prohibition is looking to address. And this isn't something that is simply sort of a little silent prohibition that isn't enforced. The California Fair Political Practices Commission, the FPPC, has found violations of mass mailing prohibitions in the past handful of years for things like sending out holiday cards with an official's name and picture, for things like sending out quarterly magazine or a newspaper where you're featuring the elected officials' names, pictures, and some of these other features. Thank you. So next, I'll talk a little bit about campaign and political activities. Again, the rule here is pretty broad. All of these rules are all sort of broad and sweeping. No public funds may be used to promote partisan positions in an election campaign, and that's whether this is for a personal campaign or for a measure or a proposition. So as we discussed before, this prohibition also applies to other types of resources. It applies to phones, copiers, use of the agency's resources, not just money, also applies to staff time. And then the improper use of public funds for campaign or political activities can trigger civil fines and criminal penalties. An agency can distribute informational materials that are factual, balanced, and do not advocate, but that is even subject to a further test known as the time, tone, and tenor test for to really sort of make a determination as to whether or not it truly is balanced. Additionally, state law prohibits an officer or an employee from soliciting political contributions from officers or other employees And the exception there is if the contributions are received as part of or as a result of a solicitation that was made to the public generally. This isn't a defined term. There's other provisions of the law and regulations that kind of get at this concept of what is the public generally, and it's a pretty large, significant portion of your jurisdiction, something like 25% or more. In other contexts, the FPPC has found that to be, or made the determination that that's public generally. The important thing here is that public employees and public officials can engage in these types of political activities on their own time and outside of the scope of their work. So we have on your own time and on your own dime, that's fine. So the FPPC also has a tool that they deployed several years ago known as FPPC AdWatch. And it's really an avenue for members of the public to submit complaints about what they view to be improper campaign advertising, improper use of public resources to the FPPC. And the FPPC has said that they will, the Enforcement Division will review all submitted advertisements and communications for compliance and will actively pursue any potential violations. So it's important to think about this in context where you have not only a prohibition and requirements around the use of public resources for this type of campaign or political activities, but also tools that the FPPC is arming members of the public with to say, tell us more, tell us what you see, tell us what you're concerned with, so that we can look at it and determine whether or not there's a violation of law. And our last topic here is related to compensation and reimbursement policies. So board members across all agencies are subject to legal limits on compensation. And the courts interpret these limits very strictly. So for example, West County board members are only permitted to be compensated in the amount of $100 per day of service or per meeting, no more than 6 in a month, unless the board adopts an ordinance following a very specific process, increasing that amount above $100. And that's the process that the board has entered into. So you all have gone through the process to utilize the statutory tools that are available to you. And what's available to West County is different from what's available to another agency. These are all sort of agency-specific or topic-specific laws that apply when it comes to board member compensation. Additionally, board members can be reimbursed for actual and necessary expenses according to and pursuant to a board-adopted policy. So the board policy is specifically mandated under AB 1234 and is the result of really, you all may be familiar with the City of Bell scandal from 2010. It's the result of that. It comes out of that and all the sort of bad acts that were going on in that context. We have these new statutes and requirements that are in place to make sure that where directors are being compensated or reimbursed, that in fact what's being done is being done properly and in accordance with a specific process. So expense reimbursement is permitted for actual and necessary expenses and incurred in the performance of official duties. Requests for any kind of expense reimbursement that goes beyond what's authorized, requests either a taking or a gift of public funds. And then there are criminal and civil penalties that apply to the unlawful use of public resources, including prison terms, permanent disqualification from public office, fines up to $1,000 per day the violation occurs, plus 3 times the value of the resource used. So under all of these topics, use of public resources, mass mailing prohibition, compensation reimbursement policies, political activities, we're all getting to this central idea, which is that members of the board and staff here are really given the public trust. You all are holding that, and that's a critical and vital piece, and maintaining that trust is critical and vital to being able to effectively do the agency's business. If members of the public feel that they can't trust that folks aren't engaging in some kind of backhand personal enrichment by virtue of their public office, then they're going to have a lot of questions about how the agency is performing its business. The appearance of impropriety is critical in this area. So it's really important when we're thinking about whether or not something that is being proposed or being considered is on the right side of the law or not, to also consider, well, what does it look like? What would a member of the public think if they saw this? how would they look at this and evaluate to determine whether or not this is something that is potentially a breach of public trust. So there's law, there's bare minimums, but there's also really a mandate here to think about maintaining the public trust, what that requires, and really trying to keep conduct above reproach in order to preserve that trust. So that is all I have for my training on this topic tonight. I'm happy to respond to questions.
Thank you. Director Weiner, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I tried to be a whiner.
I don't see you down there.
My dad corrected all my high school teachers. Thank you. Short,
There he is.
to the point, and it just is common sense more than detail. So appreciate you refreshing us on this matter.
Sure.
Director King Meredith.
Thank you, General Counsel. I enjoyed the refreshing of the other presentation, needed it. You know, it's always good to keep us informed, and I appreciate you for it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Director Alvarado.
The more oversight, the better. Thank you for the information. Very informative.
Vice President Sedith.
Thank you, appreciate it. Where does it fall, because you said not to, about, there's one in there about employees, asking for employees. Where does that fall when it comes to a union?
So
Employee union, because I think that there's a tricky, it's kind of tricky, especially if you're taking money from an employee union that works here.
there's no distinction for whether or not the employees that are solicited are represented or non-represented. The prohibition applies to soliciting employees or officials of the agency. So if there is a broad and general prohibition that applies to the public generally, and that's a term of art that, as I said, is not defined, then there's an exception to receiving contributions in that context. But otherwise, the law doesn't make a distinction as to whether or not the employees are represented.
Okay, good. That's good to know. Can you go over the mass mailing again?
Sure.
Because I have questions. Some of our publications, and so I just have questions on this one.
Mm-hmm.
I get it, but I just want to hear it again.
Sure, sure. So the mass mailing prohibition, state law prohibits the newsletters or mass mailings at public expense, and that's a specific term of art. It means these types of tangible items that feature the name, picture, or office or other such reference to an elected official, and it is 200 or more substantially similar items in the same month. There is excuse me, the use of public resources is a pretty low threshold in terms of what could go into it. It goes, if you used $50 or more for the design, the development, anything like that, that would all be considered use of public resources. And then there are a number of exceptions. It's, like I said, very broad law, many kind of minute exceptions that capture all number of different situations, but because the exceptions are so specific, it really is important whenever we're doing these types of large-scale, tangible item mailings or distributions that we're mindful and looking at those exceptions to make sure that we're not on the wrong side of things.
I heard this at a conference once. I think it was the conference we were at, but they were talking about this when it came to and I think it had to do with posting these, like our newsletters and whatever on the website. And it counts, would that count?
No, it needs to be a tangible item, something that someone can hold in their hand, so an email doesn't count.
That some people get, so they post it, I think what they said was they post it and then they print a certain amount and send it out. And they definitely said they were able to print it. And they said, some people in their
organizations.
yeah, some people, they send it to it in print, some people, because those are people who don't access it online. So some people, they do send it to it in print because they subscribe to a print version. And then other people get it online.
So it's really going to depend on what the it is, right? The substance of the thing is going to depend.
It depends.
Right.
Because it was a newsletter. It's their, I don't know if it's monthly, I guess it's their monthly newsletter.
So it's, like I said, it's going to really depend on, like, you need to look at the document and evaluate what it is, how it is describing the elected officials, and then whether or not you're going to meet those number thresholds that could kind of tip you over the top. But it's not the kind of thing where I can stand up here and say, yes, that's fine, no, that's not fine, with some limited exceptions. A few of the exceptions are that clear, right? We're talking about intra-agency communications. We know we're on the right side there. Legally required notices and announcements, that kind of thing, that's all fine. But otherwise, you're going to want to look at it and you're going to want to say, how are we talking about the elected officials here? What is the document itself? The exceptions even go to the extent of saying you can have the elected official's name and describe it, but it needs to be kind of all consistent font and things like that. So that's what we would be looking at when we're determining whether or not there's a violation, potentially.
Look at, is it a combination, is it all male, or is it a combination of if it's male and it's posted?
Well, that's going to be,
Because somebody asked a question, is it that, oh, we only mailed
X amount.
50, X amount of copies, because those people don't get online, but we only mailed, like, maybe we had 13,000 people in our district, but we only mailed, I don't know, 10% of that, or 5% of that, and the rest of them were online. I'm just trying to.
200 or more substantially similar items.
But those have to be mailed.
They have to be received at the individual's location, their home, their work, received by the individual. Yep, exactly. Tangible item. It's not going to count if you have 50 tangible items and everything else is online.
Okay, that clears it up, because it was a lot of confusion on that.
It is a confusing law. It's not one that I would suggest kind of speaking or advising on in abstract. As I said, I think if it were me and I had a client that had a question, I would just say, show me what you're going to be sending out, and I'll take a look and see if this is something that we think is okay or not, and if it's not, how we want to fix it so we make sure that it's okay.
Because there was a similar question, I think, Director Wiener asked last year, maybe about like using a photo that was produced by the district, right? The district took the pictures, and using those pictures in a campaign material, and I did that, and so was.
That's public domain, though.
It was
No.
right? And
It's
so
not permitted,
somebody
yeah.
asked a similar question like that. The only reason I knew the answer is because you told us no.
Yeah, it's if the agency has used their resources to develop it, we own our IP, we own the materials that we develop, and so that same rule applies.
So I have a question. So does this apply also to packages that are sent out from your agency that may be huge packages? And you have to send out to about 30 people? And each package is something like, 120 pages? But it's using the from the agency, from the rent payers, who's ever paying that. How do you get by on that,
Are you talking about under the mass mailing prohibition?
Yes.
It's not the size of what you're distributing. So if you have a newsletter, that it's a 50-page newsletter, it's not that you send out 5 of those and you're in trouble. It's that you send out 200 or more of those, regardless of the number of pages. Right, exactly. And again, they sort of hit all the other triggers that we're talking about under this prohibition, that it features the name and the picture and other references like that, and doesn't otherwise fit under one of our exceptions.
Thank you. Director Wiener?
My only question is, because I lost the thread, it's just in the case of crossing the line. This is an FPPC You're talking about the FPPC rules, right?
I'm talking, so mass mailing prohibition is state law enforced by the FPPC.
But it's all around political campaigning. In other words, our district can have a newsletter and send it to every one of our households as long as it doesn't stress the greatness of Harry, the director Weiner.
You're sort of getting to the purpose behind it with that question. The purpose is to keep elected officials from using public resources to build their own reputations, right? So if the agency, using agency resources, is sending out tangible materials, we need to be careful about how we're discussing our board members in those materials to make sure that we're not crossing that line into what is effectively campaigning.
Okay. Just to get back.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
since, you done? Good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, so my question is, since you're on the topic of campaigning, can you talk a little bit about how we shouldn't or are not allowed to endorse as a director?
So it's important to be mindful not to give the impression or to state that there is an agency position that hasn't been taken, or to say, vote yes on this, vote no on that. The courts have looked at that kind of express advocacy and the use of public resources to communicate that express advocacy and prohibiting that. From a broad perspective, when you're talking about things like measures, the board can take a position. The board can send out information that says, if measure X passes, the effect will be Y. And that, so long as it ticks all those boxes, right? It's not advocacy, it's not tipping the scales, anything like that. The issue comes in when you cross that line and you start doing that express advocacy. You, as a board member in sort of your political realm, endorsing or not endorsing folks, you can use your title for identification purposes, but you can't use it to effectively bring the imprimatur of the agency to say the agency endorses so-and-so.
Right.
It's just I, as a board member, I'm, so-and-so, this is my title, and I endorse XYZ.
Okay, and then, yeah, because running the RNCC, the Richmond Neighborhood Coordinating Council, we are apolitical. We put out thousands and thousands of newsletters, but we're not allowed to use politics or sales, obviously. We're not going to promote solar companies or politicians. So I kind of feel that we're in the same realm here. And so I also wanted to ask, I appreciate the ad watch. That's important because I work with a lot of nonprofits that say they're nonprofits, but they really aren't because they haven't registered. But I also wanted to ask about in-kind, meaning like if a director goes out and helps someone with their campaign and by hiring people to walk for them or buying a poll for that candidate, that could be construed as the district endorsing a certain candidate also, right?
So really, you would have to look, so again, so long as you are not suggesting that this is approved by the agency or
Yes.
by the board, that there's none of that direct advocacy, that you're only using your title for identification purposes and you're not using public resources to do it, then you should be on the right side of things. I want to be clear, there is a whole nother body of law that applies to campaign contributions and how you do those contributions and what you need to report and all of these other things. That isn't what this is covering. This is covering really just when we're talking about agency resources. And technically, if you do, in fact, if an agency does do this type of campaigning, they're supposed to disclose it. The campaigning isn't permitted in the first place. You're not permitted to engage in these types of partisan acts using public resources because you're here to do the public's business.
Yep. Well, thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Of course.
And I guess we'll move on to the next item. Thanks again.
final item is item 7, Director's Comments, Meeting Reports. Madam Clerk, do we have any written comments or requests to speak on this item?
We don't. If anyone has any questions, any comments on this item, please approach the podium or raise your hand in Zoom. Seeing none, we have no public comments.
Thank you. As a reminder, directors will report on meetings they attended for which they are seeking reimbursement or compensation from WCW and other matters within the subject matter jurisdiction of the agency. Director Weiner.
Since our last meeting on November 5, I attended El Sobrante Municipal Advisory Committee, the West County Forum, meeting the district's own Kate Gibbs there, and the Richmond City Council meeting.
Thank you. Director King Meredith.
Thank you, President Retila. Also, I had the opportunity on Zoom to attend the San Pablo City Council that took place, matter of fact, Monday. And also the Board of Supervisor meeting, which took place yesterday, which was Tuesday. It actually was, I think, a 7.5-hour meeting. Yeah, I started at 9 o'clock.
3 meetings there.
Yeah, I started at 9 o'clock and I didn't finish at 4:15, so, yeah. So I'm not gonna tell you what all they went through, you can always look online and see what was being discussed, but I have plenty of notes on that. And then the other was, the city council that took place last night, and it ended at 10:30, all these long meetings. And also, going back for the past week was the finance and administration meeting that I attended. Thank you.
Thank you. That was great. Director Alvarado.
Since the last WCW board meeting, I attended the RNCC on November 10th, where there was a presentation by Diana Beckton, District Attorney for Contra Costa County. I attended the November 17th San Pablo Council meeting, where they had quite a few public hearings in the agenda, but the one that was most germane to West County was the one amending the ADU units to allow the sale of ADUs as condominiums as authorized by Assembly Bill 1033 and pursuant to the City Priority Work Plan Policy 301.4. Yesterday, I attended the IOE committee meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice President Suddeth.
Thank you. I had a CSDA webinar on, I actually had a couple of them, but the first one was on workforce development. And then the Contra Costa Mayor's Conference in Danville. I'll let President Retila tell you about that one. Another CSDA webinar on, hold on, I will tell you what it was about. I got a bunch of them. If you guys aren't logging on, you should. There's a bunch of them. What was the other one? Oh, a well untapped meeting. I was at the Board of Supervisors meeting. I went to a memorial service for Miss Belva Davis. 2 different events actually for her on Monday and Tuesday. Our Veterans Day celebration or recognition, Remembrance Day in Berkeley, Richmond, Oakland, and Walnut Creek.
John,
The
Garaminda.
Oh, yes. You forgot that one. Yeah, I'll come back to that one. Finance and Administration meeting, a meeting, Sierra Club Water, and yes, and then our Congressman Garamendi meeting with Director King Meredith. She forgot, so I'm gonna tell you that she was there. And then the Contra Costa Special Districts Association meeting on Monday, our well planning meeting BACWA meeting where we talked about updates on PFAS. And just today, I had another CAWEF we had a CAWEF meeting last Friday. And then today, another planning meeting for a regional environmental health and wellness summit. Workforce Development Board meeting from Contra Costa County, and Hazardous Materials Commission meeting, and CSDA webinar. I think that's it. Yes.
That's it?
Yeah, it's enough, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you. As Vice
I went to
President,
sleep in between.
as Vice President Sedith said, I went to the mayor's conference in Danville along with her, and they had a presentation for Dolly Parton Inspiration Library. And it was fascinating. Dolly Parton wants to get a book in every fifth grader's hand, so they get a head start on reading, and it's pretty inspirational. Of course, the mayor's told us what's going on in their cities, but I can't remember everything. So the RNCC, as Director Alvarado said, we had Diana Beckton. She talked about how AI has changed things in her office, which was fascinating. The RNCC will be hosting a holiday party and toy drive for the Richmond Fire Department and Richmond Police Department. We are also going to honor our police chief, Bisa French, who is retiring and will be sorely missed. She raised the bar extremely high. And also Lieutenant Donovan Decius will be retiring. And I was picked to sit on a committee to hire our next police chief. And that will be Friday. There will be a lot of us meeting together on a committee, and we're going to try to ferret out the best candidate. I think our current assistant police chief will probably have a leg up. So also, we'll have proclamations and awards for our police chief. She's very beloved, Bisa French. The IOE committee, we had yesterday, PIPES program, clean and green presentation. City council meeting yesterday. They spoke about the Black Resiliency Project, $1.5 million towards that, to do some research in the city of Richmond to see how the Black community has been affected by Chevron and the environment. They also talked about radios for RPD. That was passed. And they had the Contra Costa Health there with the presentation. I'd also like to mention that the Fairmead Hilltop, or the Hilltop Community Church, we are collecting clothes, and warm clothes in particular, and blankets and things of that nature. So it's the time of year to donate. If you could afford to donate, that'd be great. You can contact the Hilltop Community Church. We do have Thanksgiving coming, so safe travels and be safe out there. And I will move it on to the clerk.
So the December 3rd meeting has been canceled per your action tonight. The next regular board meeting is December 17th at 6:30 p.m.
Thank you. Anyone else want to add anything?
Yes, there is a December 10th webinar from CSDA on Brown Act. You should attend, everybody. No matter what you think you know about the Brown Act, you should attend it anyway. He's online. You can get in your pajamas.
If you
And
wear
log
pajamas,
on.
right?
Log on.
Thank you.
Get your bowl of popcorn and go ahead.
Could you,
And log on to your system and get your continuing education points and just go ahead and log on. And they also have for us board members on December 2nd there's another session on GM evaluations. I'm taking it. I just like it. I think it's good. So, but the one on December 10th is really good for Brown Act.
Director Wiener?
I have a question for Vice President. What are the details of that Brown Act presentation?
CSDA is
Oh,
under
it's
webinar.
CSDA.
So if you log onto your account onto CSDA and you go under Learn,
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I just didn't hear that part.
oh, okay.
CSDA,
CSDA on 1210.
yeah. And you're thinking it's going to be like I got to wear my pajamas?
Yeah, you can do.
Is it start at 10 o'clock? I'm like 77 years old. This is not going to work.
No, it's on demand, so you can take it whenever.
Okay, thank goodness.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. Before we adjourn, I'd like to share my thoughts and prayers with the Belva Davis family. She was an icon.
Yes.
So that being said, it's 10 after 9, November 19th. I'd like to end this meeting, and thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you.